Good evening, everyone. Severe Weather Team 9 meteorologist Nathan Judd joining you for this edition of Nate at 8. So happy to be back. We've had Facebook updating some policies and getting back finally to be able to stream on Facebook. So happy to be back here now with everyone. And of course, last Thursday, Friday with our high school football games, not able to do that edition of Nate at 8 to keep that in mind for these fall months with high school football. It won't be able to unfortunately join you for those Thursday, Friday evenings, but so happy to be back here this evening. I appreciate it as always. Thanks so much for joining me for this edition of Nate at 8. And let's jump into things, shall we? Certainly the big story. It's cool. It's unseasonably cool into this month. And we are tracking some showers for this evening. Not a lot, but we have been tracking some more of those isolated showers across the area. Certainly nothing impactful, but we will be tracking some more of these showers going throughout this evening. Tapering off then by tomorrow. That following round then likely arrives Thursday. This is still a dry pattern. I know it sounds more active when we say that, we're drying up just for a day and then the next round of rain's in sight. But just like what we're dealing with this evening, this isn't a wet day, right? This is certainly not a wet day. Thursday's not going to be a wet day. And then we're drying back up Friday and staying dry through the weekend. These rounds of rain with these showers, it's just not amounting to much. This isn't widespread rain. These are much more hit or miss showers that are with us. And a lot of this precipitation is on the lighter side and not anticipating anything impactful, thankfully, coming our way. And these cool temperatures, they stay in place through the weekend. When do the warmer temperatures return? That's something we'll dive into as well on this edition of Nate at 8. So those current temperatures now are falling into the 60s, even 59 already into Cambridge, maybe reading a little bit too cool on that sensor in Cambridge, which is pretty typical. That sensor runs pretty cool there in Cambridge. Our high temperatures that we had for today, mid-lower 70s across the area. Temperatures are dropping off pretty quickly here early on this evening. And as we look ahead, those temperatures, they just stay into the 70s. So we saw those high temperatures in the 70s for the start of this week, and they don't go anywhere through this weekend. So good odds we have 7 straight days with highs in the 70s. Now by Monday, Tuesday is when that streak will likely come to an end. And ironically, it's for the beginning of the new month. So right as the calendar changes from August to September is when we'll likely get back in the 80s. And not that it's going to be a real warm stretch there into that first week of September. We can have more seasonable to even a little bit above normal high temperatures at that point. We can string together highs at least 80 plus, likely for a lot of that stretch next week. So if you've been hoping for some warmer temperatures, give it another week here. By next week, that's when that warmer stretch of temperatures will likely return. We string together some 80s there for that first week of September. That being said, we feel it. This is quite a cool stretch here for August. And not typical. It is not typical to deal with 7 straight days or longer as highs fail to even reach 80 degrees. And the last time we had this long of a stretch, because, I have to put a question mark. We haven't obviously gone through Sunday yet, but there's great odds that we stay below 80 degrees through Sunday. And that marks 7 days in a row with high temperatures below 80. The last time we had this was in 2019 on the 23rd to the 29th of August. Before that, 2017. Before that, 2013, and then before that, 2004. Now, that was almost 2 weeks in a row. Quite a historic stretch there in 2004. But what you're looking at is what's on record at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport since 2000. So over 25 years, this is only the 5th year this has happened, or the 5th time this has happened. So this is certainly not a common occurrence, right? This cool stretch that we are in. Do we get days in the 70s in August? Yes. We've even had days in the 60s. Even we had that just last year. We can get days where highs even stay below 70, but it's more of just a prolonged. We don't typically see this prolonged cool stretch into August with 7 or more days where those high temperatures fail to at least reach 80 degrees for one of those days. So it's been the longest stretch we've had here, dating back since 2019, and just the 5th time in over 25 years that this has happened at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport. Now, another thing to note, by tomorrow morning, the low temperatures, they likely dip just below 50, and it's been some time since we had that. Obviously this isn't we're not, this isn't as staggering a statistic, but I just did some digging because if you've been curious, okay, when's the last time we've been in the 40s, right? When's the last time we had a night this cool? Well, this is it. So it's the last time we had those low temperatures dip below 50 at the airport was June 2nd. That's when we had a chilly low of even 40 degrees. We're not getting that chilly, but the upper 40s, maybe in the mid 40s in some spots. Yes. So we'll deal with that. Again, it'll be close. There's a decent chance tonight we'll get there. If not, I think there's great odds Saturday morning is when we're going to get there. I think that's where we could even see some of those colder spots dip in the mid 40s, a little bit cooler morning, likely Saturday morning. But what we have for tonight into tomorrow morning and what we have Friday night to Saturday morning, those can be the coolest mornings that we have ahead as we go through the weekend. Again, decent chance to get into the 40s tonight and pretty good odds. I think Saturday morning is when we can dip into the 40s across the area. So here's our isolated showers. Again, not a whole lot of precipitation, but there are some showers to speak of for this evening. We're dealing with those showers now moving through areas near Steubenville, Weirton, just passing through Toronto. Towards East Liverpool, also dealing with some showers have been passing through Harrison County and Cadiz, and then looking further towards the western, southwestern portion of Harrison County, southern Tuscarawas County, northeastern portion of Guernsey County, where we're currently seeing some showers. Also dealing with that stray shower just north of New Martinsville, and then also dealing with that shower in moving into southern Noble County. So in spots, there's that passing shower this evening. Again, these don't stick around too much longer. We'll likely notice them into the early part of tonight, but if we see that sunset, give it another hour or two, and we're going to notice that these are going to be tapering off likely. And Futurecast is doing a good job of illustrating this as well. So as we fast forward throughout this evening, there's 10 o'clock. Notice that just like last night, a lot of this activity just tapers off rather quickly early on. So by the time we get to 10 o'clock, there's not much left. And shortly after that, we'll likely then dry up across the area. The big story tonight, of course, those low temperatures, good, decent chance, I'd say is a good way to word it, to drop into the 40s. It'll be close. I think a lot of us will fall just into the 40s. Some of those warmer spots may be holding just at that 50-degree mark, but, ultimately anticipate a cool start to tomorrow. May want to, have a jacket at least with you to begin tomorrow. It's on the cool side before we'll climb back towards the mid-70s tomorrow afternoon. Notice the absence of those isolated showers. Yes, we likely won't see them redevelop for tomorrow. High pressure is going to be taking hold and maintaining like even more sunshine tomorrow than what we've had here over the past couple of days as well. Staying dry then Wednesday night into Thursday, then a cold front passage returns that following chance for some showers. These look to hold off until we get into the evening hours on Thursday and then likely continuing Thursday night. So it's going to be towards the tail end of the day Thursday night. Are they still scattered in nature? Yes, they likely are. Coverage can be a little greater though than this evening and what we had for yesterday, but these are in general still more on the scattered side. We'll deal with that round of some showers again going into the end of the day Thursday night, but by Friday morning, we're likely drying back up and the rain threat then falls off as we go throughout the day on Friday. And that slight chance there for just something maybe lingering earlier on in the morning, and then we'll likely dry up going throughout the day. By Saturday, Sunday, then there's no threat for rain at all. So, again, after what we're dealing with this evening, likely the next round is going to be more into Thursday night, and then we're likely drying up as we go through the weekend, as we maintain a pretty cool pattern during the stretch. Again, not a whole lot of precipitation coming our way as we do extend here towards the end of the month, which, I know Chief Meteorologist Jeff Exline, meteorologist Emma Keegan, they've been diving into some of this as well. But if you haven't seen this, we've been talking about this as well. The rainfall totals this month, this is certainly historic. We've had 2 days of measurable rain at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport this month. That's it. This dry stretch even started at the end of July. So now we're now getting to the point where this has been a month, and now it's going to be a little over a month by the time we wrap up this month that we've been dealing with this very dry stretch of weather. Only had 0.56 inches measured at the airport. 0.49 came in one day. So we've had very little outside of one day at the airport, and that was earlier last week. I think it was last Tuesday night, if I'm not mistaken. That's when we had close to half inch of rainfall at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport. Outside of that, this has been a very, very dry August across the area. And this is evidence from what we're looking at on record. So, the previous record, what will likely be the previous record, what stands now as the record in 1951 at 1.16 inches. We're at 0.56 inches. We got a lot of ground to make up with some of these light showers that are in place. We're likely adding a little bit to this before we wrap up the month. I think there's decent odds. Even as we're looking right now, I'm sure the airport's picked up a little bit of rain from these showers this evening. Again, not a lot, but a little bit, something at least measurable. And we can add a little bit to that this evening and maybe a little bit more Thursday night. But are we going to reach 1.16 inches? Likely not. And I think there's great odds we don't even reach an inch. So we stay under an inch. I think there's good odds for that, staying under an inch overall for total precipitation for the month of August. And that will go down then. Good odds to go down as the driest August on record for the Wheeling area. Now, we all remember back to the drought that we were in last year. But, that being said, this stretch that we're having right now even exceeds a dry stretch that we've had of equivalence last year. It was more prolonged, yes, last year, which led to, historic drought conditions. But dealing with this, historic low amount of precipitation for what has been a month long now, what will be a little over a month. And we have not even registered a 0.6 of an inch at the airport. This is quite a historic stretch here of some dry conditions. And yes, we are certainly looking at some very low rainfall totals for the month. We'll see just how much more we can add to this. Likely not much more, but we can add a little bit more to this by the time the month ends this weekend. And then as we look after that, as we extend, past Thursday night, when we can add a little bit more to this on top of this evening, the following round after that of some rain will likely hold off until the end of next week. So around next Wednesday night, Thursday looks to be that timing. So later next week would be the timing for some more showers coming our way. Of course, the bigger story to next week is that it's not as cool. We'll get back 80s likely for a lot of those days. Nothing real hot, but certainly more warm days ahead next week. And still, not a lot. It doesn't look like there's a lot of rain coming our way next week, but I do see that following round of some showers looks to arrive towards next Thursday. Wednesday night, Thursday is the timing right now. Still pretty far out. That can adjust some, but later next week is when we'll likely see that following round then of some showers coming our way. Austin, good evening. Very glad to have you back. Today was a very fall-like day. It sure was. Can't believe how dry this August has been. Been seeing a good bit of hummingbirds and dragonflies. Very cool, Austin. Thanks so much for joining this evening. I'm very happy to be back as well. So happy to be able to be back streaming for our Nate at 8. And hello there, Shane. Hello. And Austin, yes, a very dry August. It has been a staggeringly dry August and, pretty impressive cool stretch here at the end of the month as well. But pretty cool. We've been seeing quite a bit of hummingbirds and dragonflies. Shane says, when will we get some rain? It is so dry. It is. We desperately need some rain at this point. We're starting to see abnormally dry conditions across the area. We'll see that latest drought monitor will be coming out on Thursday. So we'll see here in a couple days if we are dealing with any drought conditions now labeled in our area. We had a wet start to summer, which has helped with this very dry stretch now that we're in right now. What's helped is that it was very wet leading into this, which is why, we're not dealing with the significant drought conditions that we saw develop over time last year. I mean, it takes time, obviously, to get into that historic drought that we had last year. And we'll see, there's no real wet pattern in sight going into the beginning of September, but we'll see. I mean, I'm sure we can start to here over the next, not only this Thursday, but in the next Thursday, start to see at least some classification of drought in our area with these dry conditions that have been in place as of recent. This is the kind of weather that don't mind going on walks. It is great weather to go on walks, Austin. It absolutely is. Shane says, I think tomatoes are going to be done. Our flowers are drying out. Sorry to hear there, Shane. And yes, in desperate need, hopefully we can pick up a little more widespread rain Thursday night. Again, I don't think it's going to be a steady, widespread area rain, but hopefully a little more numerous showers is a better way to put it than the more isolated shower that we're dealing with for this evening. And Sharon says, yeah, it's raining out in Adena, picking up on that shower for this evening. Sharon is, could this spell for a cold and snowy winter, Austin is asking. And we'll see about this upcoming winter. We'll take a closer dive into that here over the next couple of months. That's for sure. We'll see what this winter may have in store. I haven't dug too far into what the winter could spell for yet, but certainly stay tuned for that, Austin. We'll start to take a deeper dive into that going over the next couple of months. Of course, we have our yearly winter weather forecast special, right, that we air. That'll be coming up in December, so stay tuned for that. We'll be airing that into November, into December, as we start to break down our winter months. But yeah, we'll start to take a deeper dive what the future could hold for us when it comes to our winter. And I certainly had more of you could say more of a winter, right? In quotations, a winter last winter than the past couple of winters. It just been so historically warm and lack of snow overall the past couple winters before we had this past winter. So we'll see. We came off quite a historic stretch there, some pretty warm winters, and we'll see if we can get more of a seasonable winter as well for this one as we look ahead for this coming winter. We'll see. Yeah, we'll take a deeper dive into that, at least here near term. Again, cool into August. And literally as we change over to September is when we change for the pattern. It's not a big flip-flop, right? We don't go well above normal, but we do go a bit above normal and more seasonable for that first week of September. Not anticipating a real unsettled pattern into that first week of September. So I think this overall dry pattern does not look to go anywhere, at least into the beginning, the start of September, with some rain chances in sight later next week, but not, obviously not dealing with the rain threat every day and more of an unsettled pattern. So we'll see how long we can string together this, pretty dry pattern over the next couple of weeks at more dry pattern. It's been dry. We'll see how long we can string together this dry pattern into the beginning of September. All right, everyone. Well, thanks so much for tuning in. I appreciate it as always. So happy to be back for this edition of Nate at 8. And coming up, we got Wednesday's edition of Nate at 8. So make sure to stay tuned for that. And keep in mind, we have Thursday, Friday. We have our high school football games on being streamed live during our Nate at 8's time. So, keep in mind for high school football games, of course, stay tuned in for some high school football action. But of course, you can always catch me even off of our Facebook live streams here at my personal Facebook, Nathan Shutt News 9. And if you're maybe not on Facebook, joining on YouTube right now, but maybe you have X, you can catch me at InShut WTOV on X. And as always, News 9 at 10 on Fox 9, News 9 tonight at 11, News 9 live at 5. You can catch me on air as well coming up as we go throughout this week. Of course, I'll have the latest coming up tonight as well as tomorrow on the next round of some showers that will be arriving into Thursday night. And coming up tonight at 10:11, I'll have the latest on these more isolated showers present for this evening. We'll be likely tracking them coming to an end at that point here tonight. And make sure to stay tuned for the next edition of Nate at 8 tomorrow evening at 8. We'll have the latest on the following round then of some showers going into Thursday night. We'll map it out into Futurecast and even extend it into Friday morning at that point going through Thursday night. Thanks so much for tuning in. Appreciate it as always. I hope you have a wonderful night, and I'll see all of you on the next edition of Nate at 8.